guys, and today we will be looking at a Bachmann locomotive, and this Bachmann locomotive is a Stanier Mogul in its BR lined early emblem livery. Now if I've got this correct, I believe this was Stanier's first locomotive from coming over from the Great Western, if I have that correct, and this is a 260 locomotive. I thought I would review this because it's a loco I don't have, and I don't really see much on YouTube, much love for this locomotive for some reason. It gets overlooked with all the black fives and coronations and princesses and all that sort of stuff. So I thought I'd take a look at it and see if it's worth the money that I paid for it, and would I recommend one. So let's get into it and find out, shall we? Starting off with the detail bag, like I always do, there is quite a lot of stuff to add to this locomotive. By the looks of it, you get a speaker with some screws. You also get the brake rigging for the loco and tender. There's some doors, there's some fireman tools, there's some alternative glazing as well by the looks of it, from what I can see. You also get the hooks and chain links in there too, and some vacuum pipes and steam pipes by the looks of it. There is quite a lot, and some of the stuff I don't know what it does or where it goes, but there is quite a lot to add. As we move on to the front of the locomotive now, the front of the locomotive is highly detailed, I would say. We do have black, I think the plastic buffers, but they're not sprung. We also have a few rivets, and the buff beam and housing is in red. There's a hole for some detail parts as well. We also have some iron to knock stuff off the tracks underneath where the coupling is, which is a small NAM one, I believe. Moving on up, we have at least 3 lamp irons and a few rivets, and there's a possibility of some handrails there too. We have some bracing to go with it. As we get to the smoke box door, we do have a separately applied dart. We also have the number of this locomotive, which is 42969. We also have a handrail at the top, another lamp iron. We do have a shed code, which, if I have this correct, it should be 6C, and I believe it's Birkenhead, Wellington Street, if that's correct. If not, it's another sub shed for the same time. That's what I think it is. Then at the top we also have a chimney as well. As we move on to the side of the locomotive now, this side is more interesting than the other side. The other side does have the same stuff, but there's a few more pots on the running board. That's the only difference, and it doesn't have the reverser or the steam pipe or any of these extra piping that has it this side. That's the only difference I can see. We do have the reversing rod, which is buried on this locomotive. It's just above the running board of the chassis there, and it's in black. Not sure if it's metal or plastic. The wheel configuration for this locomotive is a 260, and it's a Lms Stanier design Mogul. If we look on the cylinders, we can see some of that red, black, red lining. We also have a intricate white red lining on the chassis as well. The wheel axles do seem to be covered, and we also have a lot of metal working stuff there on the valve gear and stuff like that. And there's a little bit of plastic in there somewhere. Like I said, this is a Lms Stanier design, and the livery for this locomotive is in BR black, and it has some lining on the boiler, which is red, black and red. And I think there's a superheater on there as well. There's a handrail, and there's some more piping going around too on this side, and a few washout plugs as well. I don't think there's an air gap in the boiler or anything like that, so there won't be any motion inside or stuff that Bachmann normally do, which is great. We do have on the cab, we do have the number of the locomotive, which is 42969. We also have some lining around that and a classification. The lining is white, black and red. The classification, I'm not sure if it's a 5P or 5F. It is what I'm guessing it is. We also have a few rivets as well. We do have some glazing already in the cab, which is, I don't know why there's some in the detail bag, but there's extra ones in the detail bag if you want to change it. We also have a step as well and a few rivets. As we move on to the part most people look forward to in a steam review, especially a modern day one anyway, and that is the cab detail and the front of the tender detail. In this model, there is a 4-plate that moves up and down. Mine's at the down position. We do have a wood effect going on, but it's just painted black, so wear and tear, I'm guessing. It's a nice touch, at least to go on for that wood effect. We do have glazing bars in here, like I said before. There's some in the detail bag. I don't know why, that's how they've done it. We have most things in there painted. The dials do not have any numbers on, but it's got a white background with a bit of gold going around. The pipes are all painted. There's a nice fire effect going on in there with the doors shut with the handle showing. There's no flickering firebox or anything like that. This is quite a simple locomotive from Bachmann. Everything that is painted should be painted, like the regulator and all the rest, and the water gauges, all in the right colours as well. The cab does have a cream roof as well. As we move on to the front of the tender now, the front of the tender is mainly for the firemen. There is a chute for the coal, there's a few cupboards as well, and there's a few places to put detail parts by the looks of it as well. It's quite an intricate tender there. As we move on to the side of the tender, I believe this tender is a Fowler flush tender, which means there's probably no rivets on it, if I got that correct. The tender is in black with some lining. The lining is white, black, red and black, I guess. That's what it is. It's a BR line tender with the early emblem crisply applied on it as well. We also have a few handrails dotted around and stuff for details. You can see a handle for the crew, for the firemen as well. There's steps too, and then as we move down, we also have the axle boxes and all the rest crisply moulded. It's very nice, nothing picked out or anything, but crisply moulded in black. And then we have black wheels as well. As we move on to the back of the tender now, the back of the tender is like the front. It does not have sprung buffers, but they are painted black and I think they are plastic. There's a hole there for the detail on the buff beam. The buff beam and housing is in red with a few rivets. We also have a vacuum pipe or an air pipe already applied. We have a small tension lock or NAM coupling as well, and there's some stuff to knock stuff off the tracks as well next to the coupling. Moving on up, we do have 3 lamp irons. The tender livery is just black. We have 2 plaques on there as well. I think one's water and one's coal capacity or something like that. They are there. We also have handrails and we have 2 steps either side. And then we have another lamp iron in the middle as well. As we move on to an aerial view now of the tender, starting in the usual places. The tender does have a water filter cap with a little handle. It also has some moulded places where you'd probably put some chains and stuff. They are there. We also have a air gap or something like that. And then we have 2 cylinders which are shiny. Not sure what they are for. We also have some bracing as well next to the coal load. The coal load itself is die cast and it is shiny like a wet coal log, I've been told it looks like. We also have something sticking out of it which I think is for a tarpaulin, if I've got that correct. Could be wrong. The coal load itself isn't removable, which is not a bad thing for me. We also have the cupboards as well for the firemen. Now, as we do an aerial look on the locomotive, starting in the usual place, which is the cab roof. The cab roof itself does have plenty of rivets all over it. It is also in black. We do have a vent which doesn't move. There's no rain ducts as such, but I think there's a rain duct a little bit up which goes straight to either side as well. Moving across a bit, we have metal safety valves and a plastic whistle and a few washout plugs as well. Again, like I said, the livery of this locomotive is BR black with red, black, red lining on boiler. We do have a dome. We also have a chimney and I think a superheater, and there's a few handrails and pipes dotted around, again with some washout plugs. And then we have the buffers at the front which are not sprung. As we do an underneath look at this locomotive now, all the wheels are metal by the looks of it. We have copper pickups on the 6 driving wheels. It's just simple strips. We also have a few screws take off the base plate. I think it's 3. And I've got a feeling this is probably hardwired. Again, there's a few holes in the cylinders for detail parts. We do have the holes for the brake rigging. And we have some sanding pipes and brake shoes already made to this model. And again, you can see the couple of wires coming out the back of the cab going across to the tender. We can see the steps as well. And finally we move on to the usual place, which is the tender and the loco and tender connection. The loco and tender connection is the old-fashioned Bachmann style, I want to say, which is a metal strip with a peg in the tender. You just have to find a hole and hope it stays in. If not, you're pulling the loco and train by the wires. Speaking of the wires, the plug is between the first lot of wheels and the middle lot of wheels, and it has, looks like, 8 wires going into it, or 4 wires going across. That's how Bachmann doing it for ages. It's not like the new V2 that Bachmann have. Again, we have holes for the brake rigging. We also have pickups on at least 4 of the wheels. And again, they have a split axle design by the looks of it. Metal on the outside and plastic on the inside. That goes for all of the tender wheels. We also have some holes for the speaker. And then again, we have a water scoop too. And then we have the coupling at the end. So next up will be the usual points test and second radius. The reason I do this is because some Bachmann locomotives don't like second radius and don't like Hornby points. So here goes, let's see if we can manage it, shall we? What's that, 32? It doesn't like slow speed on these points. So yeah, it managed that pretty well. It was a little bit stuttery at points, but it managed it. So it's not too bad. Next it will be some slow speed, and I'll find it a train to pull, and I'll see you at the end. There's a little judgery. Again, 30 seems to be its okay zone, 30 to 40. It is DC ready, so I'm running an analog. It's not too bad, a little judgery like I said, but yeah, does the job. So yeah guys, that's the end of the running session. I'll show you what it ran with before I give my opinion. We had a random freight train, all sorts, and then we have mainly maroon coaches from LMS to BR by the looks of it. There's a Caledonian one there, and we have the Royal Mail. So my opinion on the model, first off, the model cost me £111 brand new with £3 or £4 postage, which seems quite reasonable for this day and age. I got that from Borton Model Shop. I'll put a link in the description. They've got a mini sale going on of random stuff if you're interested and want to have a look. That's where I got mine from. I'm sorry if I pronounced the shop wrong. Like I said, I paid £111 for it, and it's brand new. And going on certain prices of this model or this class, shall we say, from Bachmann, currently it's going for around second-hand market, about £130, £140, which, yeah, seems okay. The only issue with mine is it had a squeak, and it does seem to jutter quite a bit, but once it's warmed up, it's fine, or got a load behind it, it's perfectly fine. Would I recommend one? I think I would, actually. It's an unusual locomotive. When you think of Stanier, you don't think of a Mogul. You think of princesses, coronations, Black 5, 8F. They're mainly what you think of when you think of William Stanier. You don't think of a Mogul. And like I said before, I think this was his first locomotive from coming from the Great Western. So yeah, it does get overlooked from all them other classes, but I would recommend one. Yeah, it has the old style connector, but that's the way Bachmann were back then. And it looks the part for me. I understand one of these classes are preserved in real life. I wouldn't pay any more than £135 for it personally. 111 is a bargain, quite frankly. So yeah guys, that's my look at the Bachmann Stanier Mogul class 260 in its BR livery. Hope you enjoyed the video, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. So please take care. Bye.